Greetings, Team DPS. I'm Dr. Alex Marrero, proud superintendent here at Denver Public Schools, and thank you for joining us today in this special edition of the Marrero Moment. Today is not just a normal episode, and I know I've said that in the past, but I mean it this time around because we don't have just a special guest. We have someone who's earned the highest award a teacher can earn in this great state of Colorado. She is the 2025 Colorado Teacher of the Year, and she's also a DPS alumni and, of course, a teacher here. Let's welcome, everyone, Ms. Janet Damon. Ms. Damon, thank you for joining us.
I'm so grateful to be here.
Congratulations for everything. I'm sure you have been experiencing a tremendous amount of fanfare, but also a lot of praise and justified. Let's talk about when you first learned about this. Did you know? How did you become aware? Was it a surprise? And if so, how was that surprise? Because I got a feeling I was a part of that a little bit. No?
Yes, it was a huge surprise. I have to say, being nominated was an amazing honor, and then completing the application and so forth. And then they told us, you won't hear anything for a while, and then all of a sudden I come in and I'm at work, and they said, oh, we're gonna do a little observation, and then all of a sudden in walks you to my classroom, and all of my students and I were stunned, and just, the commissioner of education came, and board members, and so that was a huge surprise to even be a finalist. And then fast forward, I find out we are green. We are so excited at my school to have achieved that.
Awesome.
And then my principal was excited because you were gonna come visit, and so I'm getting ready for that great moment, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden these curtains open and I see all of these faces, and I was completely surprised, as well as my mother and father were in attendance, my daughter, my granddaughter, my husband. It was just very overwhelming, but so just a moment of a lifetime. Yeah,
it was incredibly exciting, if I can. So I had the absolute pleasure of being invited along with, as you mentioned, Commissioner Dr. Susana Cordova and the entire Colorado Department of Education team. And of course, our board president, someone who you know very well, La Doctora Carrie Olson. And we were able to surprise you when you were a nominee. Yes. At Delta High School. So we went into the classroom for an observation. So as educators, we were a little bit deceiving in the sense, just for the sake of surprise.
Right.
Then if that wasn't enough, the big surprise was a multifaceted approach. So welcome the students to green status, as you mentioned, celebrate our scholars at Delta, but also to surprise you with your loved ones there.
Yes.
In an incredible way.
Yes, and it was a beautiful moment. My mother and my father, it was, my mother is an immigrant who moved here from Korea, and my father is served in the military for 24 years, retired, and then became a teacher. And so for them to be in the audience, and for my students to really to be a witness for that moment, and just knowing that their journeys have been so powerful. So I was really, it was just touched my heart to be able to be in that attendance with everyone.
Incredible. Former, I should say future Teachers of the Year, future Engineers of the Year.
Yes.
Future Astronauts of the Year. So let's talk about, I was able to get to know a whole lot in terms of your nomination and our interaction. Of course, the folks that I mentioned, our commissioner and our board president, know you a lot more intimately. For those who do not know, tell us a little bit about Ms. Damon, and if you can tell that story to where you currently are serving our scholars at Delta High School.
Well, I tell you, when I think about my journey to becoming a teacher, it starts, of course, often with having a great teacher in my journey. So I had an amazing teacher when I lived in Louisiana, and that teacher really inspired me, really loved me, allowed me to read in front of the class, and so and then, that put that little spark in me that I wanted to be a teacher. And I graduated, as you said, from Denver West High School. And
D what?
Denver, like West High School, yes.
Yeah,
West High Cowboys, yes, D West. And so I knew I wanted to become a teacher, but actually I ran into some challenges. So I went to MSU, Metropolitan State University, and there I did all my teacher preparation until I got to student teaching. And then I realized I can't afford student teaching. That is a lot of a commitment. So I thought, my other passion is libraries, and I'm a lifelong reader. So I said, well, DU has a program. I got accepted into their master's program for library science, and so I took that path, and I started working at East High School and as one of the library support folks. And then there was a shortage of librarians at that time, and so I got a call from Dr. Jody Gehrig, who was in charge of library services at the time, and said, hey, we need more librarians. We have an alternative licensure program. And I was like, wow, what a blessing. So I ended up back at MSU getting an alternative pathway license for my teaching, but it actually ended up just building on what had already been in part of my experience. So after that, I started in 2000 at Oakland Elementary School, and then moved into library services, working in our high schools, and that's kind of like a journey that took me actually out of the classroom. So I had taught at Knoll Community Art School and loved it, and then I'd gone, my husband's in the military, so I went abroad for 1 year to England and to Germany. And then when I came back, I was working at John M.S. And so around that time, there was, turnarounds that were happening in some of our schools. And I got a call that said, I would really love to see me apply for this position in library services, and I did. And so there, for 4 years, I worked with schools to build their library programs. I worked with professional learning and doing work with school leaders through CELT, and so it was phenomenal. But there was this moment where I just said, I feel like I really miss the kids. I really miss working side by side with our learners. And so it took me actually back to the classroom. So I decided to go to Delta High School. And I feel like Delta is the Olympics of my skill set. It is the synthesis of everything that I have learned in my journey, from working with inquiry to working with multi-language learners to working and having trauma-informed and healing-informed practices. And so I feel like this is my 3rd year there, and I hope to retire from there. I just it's the home that I have for my instructional practices. So
incredible. I counted 6 schools, don't know if I missed any, but I love the story. And Dr. Olson tells us so beautifully in terms of how you both and a team of educators making sure that we're in front of students at a time where things were very difficult in our district.
Yes.
And she tells the story so beautifully, saying, you know what, I missed this. And you went right back into the classroom. So West, East, Knoll, I heard, Oakland, John M.S., a little stint in Central and helping all the schools.
Yes.
And then here you are at Delta.
Yes.
Incredible journey. So I know that all days aren't the same, to say the least, right? Those tough moments that I referenced earlier that made you realize how impactful it is to be in front of our scholars is a perfect example of how some days can be tougher than others.
Absolutely.
Let's focus on those tough times and those days. What gets you through those days? What is the why behind the passion?
Wow, what a powerful question. So there are difficult times, and we know that our students, some of them have had some life experiences that are very difficult, and a lot of times teachers are the front line of support and leaning in to show care, to show empathy, to show support, but also to have high expectations for what they can do academically, because we know that our life challenges are not to hold us back, but to propel us forward. And so for me, it is truly service. I am here to serve the families and the students. And I think about, in my Oakland days, I was at Oakland for 12 years. And there it is idyllic. It was like the joy of my life. But there was a grandmother who worked and would always bring in her grandchildren. And at that time, she was in a difficult position of raising her grandchildren because of life experiences. And so she had about 6 grandchildren that were at our school, and the school, we just loved this family. And so, but when I saw her every day, at the time, I think she was in her mid-70s, and, getting to the school, not having a car, just all the work that she was doing to make sure these children had access. And I thought, you know, I work for kids and their families, and it's my job to treat children with the kind of loving care and respect that these families who are sacrificing so much expect from a teacher. So for me, service is the highest of my goals and aspirations. Have I been of service to the student, to the people who love them, to their caregivers, their guardians, and am I preparing them to really lead in their own lives? And so that truly is the foundation of what I do every single day and how I make decisions about how I propel students forward.
What a way to keep going. An incredible motivator, those who embrace that notion that this can be a thankless job if you allow it to be, but it can be the most rewarding if you allow it to be.
Absolutely.
So, and who better than us, right? I have a saying, it applies in English as well, if not us, who? In Spanish is much more common, si no nosotros, quién? So if it's not Ms. Damon, then who?
Yes.
Our kids deserve the best.
Yes.
So let's talk about this journey. I know it's been a couple of months now since we surprised you.
Yeah.
What has been some of the highlights or something that you can share in terms of this honor of being Colorado's Teacher of the Year?
Yes, I have to say, Dr. Marrero, and I think you probably have this knowledge and experience as well, is that there's so many people who make our district special. And so to be in a place where we can really share the stories of people who are doing this work and pouring in their heart and soul. And I think about even just the teachers in my hallway, people who've reached out, people who've known, people who I did like a professional development with back like 4 years ago, people who've reached out just to say, wow, so deserving, we care about you so much, we're so happy to see. And then have former students just to be so proud. I have one student who reached out and she's like, Miss, I've decided to become a teacher. And she's working right now. She had started this new job. And at first she said, I thought I would do elementary, but they say, oh no, you're so good. We need you working with these middle schoolers. And so she's like, they come to my door, Miss Damon. I'm like, she's only 18 and she's very early in her educational career, but to have lunch with her, to sit and mentor her, truly that's the dream, right? That another generation of young people feel inspired to become a teacher just as I did. I think there's no greater reward in this work.
I agree. And now, as you just mentioned, it's so much that goes into just a person. But I have to say, you're the first guest that we have here that now is calling for me to go and pay some respects to our sponsors, because we're big time now. We have the Colorado Teacher of the Year here, right? So we're going to continue this conversation. Please join me in taking a break so we can hear from our sponsors who want to continue this incredible showcase of incredible work.
That's awesome.
Have you ever imagined the impact you can make in a Denver classroom? At Denver Public Schools, we're hiring teachers who bring their unique stories, talents, and passions to our students. Whether it's sparking a love of science, championing creativity through the arts, or inspiring critical thinking, your voice belongs in our classroom. With competitive pay, professional growth opportunities, and a community that values you, there's never been a better time to join DPS.
Visit careers.dpsk12.org to apply today. That's careers.dpsk12.org.
Let's shape the future of Denver together.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's dive back into our conversation with the Colorado Teacher of the Year, Ms. Damon. So, Ms. Damon, looking back at your career so far, what lessons have you learned that you wish you could share with your younger self when you were just starting out as a teacher, so to that 18-year-old that you just mentioned?
Wow, these are great. I have to say, reflecting back, I would have told myself, it's not about perfection, it's about showing up with your whole heart. And I think a lot of times teachers can get very stressed, very overwhelmed. Did I do everything exactly perfect? And it's a craft. There are times when students show up with so much of a load of complexity on their heart, it's okay to pause and just listen. It's okay that sometimes, we take that moment to honor what's coming up in the classroom organically and bubbling up. And every question that students have that they're sharing with us is an opportunity to teach a big lesson about life, about the world. So really, I would have said to myself, be resilient. Just, know that every day there'll be new challenges, but every one of those challenges is a new opportunity for growth. I think a lot of times, sometimes folks can get overwhelmed or discouraged or think that they're not enough when they don't realize is all of those things that we've been through in life make us especially equipped to meet the moment that our students are showing up with and needing us to pour into them some wisdom, some patience, some listening, some care, and that relationships are the bedrock of this work that we do with instruction. James Baldwin once said, you cannot learn from someone who does not love you. You can't, so we want to make sure that students know when they walk through those doors, I care about you. I'm here because I care about you.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I know if I would ask a lot of your students, which I have, but if I go back to your career, a lot of them would say, Ms. Damon is a person who's influenced me. I'm going to pose that question to you. Who showed you resilience, perseverance, courage, and resilience, or just motivated you in a way that you just really want to say out loud for our audience?
Yes. Oh, there's so many. There's so many.
You can name
I think
a few.
about Betty Dennis. She was a teacher when I went in my first year of teaching. She was probably 5 feet tall, had
Those are
this
the toughest
raspy
ones,
voice.
yeah.
Yes, and she was, I think, from Texas, and she just, she showed you better than she could tell you. So she showed you she cared by making sure that, she took a minute to look through what you had planned for the day, and she took a minute to make sure that if you were at lunch and you looked a little bit dazed and confused, she just said, just hang in there, get through today. But I also think about John Gutierrez, and he was my first principal, who I saw, he was a PE teacher who became a principal and was one of those leaders who just ignited in you this desire to be excellent in every way. I think about, there's so many. I think about Dr. Carrie Olson, just served for so long in the classroom and then continued to serve on the board. I think about Dr. Susana Cordova, just, all these people who came before me modeling the way, Dr. Darlene Sampson. I mean, there's just so many. I think about Sylvia Bookert, and folks who work in central office who've always poured into me and had compassion and took a moment out of their day to speak with me. Dr. McCune. I mean, there's just so, like I said, the list goes on. But also the students.
Yeah.
Students teach me something every day, and mostly about courage. Like sometimes when I think about me facing struggles at 14, 15, 16 that they're facing, I think, how would I have navigated that without having a very loving family, very supportive family? But some of my students, are doing things even on their own, and that inspires me so much because they are relentless in their pursuit of a future for themselves that is abundant. And they will not be denied. I tell them, don't be denied. You gotta secure the bag.
I love how you reference so many folks, and I'm sure if I can continue asking that question, there's so many more. A lot of those folks that you mentioned watch this show, so they're going to be so excited.
Yes.
And you mentioned your first principal.
Yes, John Gutierrez. I don't know if he ever got his PhD, but yes, John Gutierrez was one of my, and he actually went on to be named Principal of the Year.
Awesome.
At a different district, but he really inspired me.
I'm going to use that if I can. My first Latina principal when I was a student was Carmen Jimenez. And I don't know if she watches this, but I'm surely going to send her this. So Carmen or Miss Jimenez, thank you. Thank you. I didn't think it was possible to have someone with vowels in their last name that looked like me to run an institution.
So important. It's just so important what people bring and that heart for service that people bring.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of a tougher question.
Okay.
How do you, or how can you inspire those leaders, the student leaders, and everybody who is really just rooting you on, considering what may be coming down the pike, right? The unknown, right? What we have yet to experience. How can we keep our motivation?
Absolutely. So when I think about uncertainty and future and change, those are things that, we think to ourselves, it can sometimes sap the inspiration out of us. It can sometimes, bring in that element of nihilism where we're like, what will I do? But I have to say, when I think about those who came before us, they were in the trenches. Things were not easy for the generations that moved the dial for us in education, and that, poured their brilliance, their talent, who built, and that's the work that we have now, is that, we have to get to work. And I think there's another beautiful quote when I think of Dr. Toni Morrison, and she said, it's time like these where the artists get to work. That's when you need to create more. And so I think this is the moment where teachers and where people who care about education and care about kids, this is where we're going to have to come together and create new solutions to age-old problems. We're going to have to collaborate more, listen more deeply, partner in unexpected ways, and all in service of kids and families. And if we keep them at the center of what we do, it's not going to be difficult to find solutions that are going to meet their needs. So I think this is the time where instead of becoming discouraged, we can take it to become inspired. And also there's an African tradition of Sankofa where you look to the past to help you move into the future. So I think sometimes just tapping back into the courage and ingenuity and creativity of folks who came before us, we can be inspired to do our leg of the journey. We're not doing the whole race. We have to do our leg of the journey and be ready to pass on something good to the next generation.
All right, I'm going to ask you to look into the camera for this response. So as the Colorado Teacher of the Year, what message do you want to send to aspiring teachers, especially those from diverse backgrounds like those we serve in our incredible district?
So in education, if you follow this path, it can lead to the greatest gifts of the Spirit, where you'll be happy and inspired and tremendously encouraged by this generation that we work with. So if it's ever been on your heart to become a teacher, and if it's ever come up in your journey that you have touched lives, this is the time to come back to the fold of generations of teachers who came before you and to provide that loving service to this next generation. They need us more than ever. So just Google a little bit about Generation Alpha. This is a new generation that we're going to be serving that has so much potential as globally the world's largest generation of young people. And you have an opportunity to leave some fingerprints on how this generation meets the future.
Incredible. What an absolute pleasure, Ms. Damon. Congratulations. The battle is not over because we're rooting for you to become the National Teacher of the Year.
Thank you.
And hopefully this becomes viral because people need to hear your message and know what you do. And of course, our incredible district and our incredible scholars as well.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for making time out of your incredibly busy schedule, impacting those incredible scholars to come join me and have this conversation. But I believe it's going to really hit the masses, and rightfully so. I want to thank everyone in our DPS community for joining us and being part of this and the many conversations that impact our scholars on a daily basis. You can subscribe to all DPS content like Marrero Moment by searching the Denver Public Schools podcast. I'll see you next time. Ms. Damon, join me by doing this.